But first, we've talked a lot about coronavirus this week and its economic impacts here and overseas, and other concerns like terrorists set to be released from Australian jails at the end of the year and High Court decisions on race that I regard taking our country backwards. Now, all of this is important, indeed urgent, but we can't let other debates slide while our attention is elsewhere, like other issues in other hearings out of Senate estimates this week. Now, before we get too far into this discussion on what happened, some of you have asked me what exactly is meant by the term Senate estimates, and that's a fair question, because I think we're all at fault in this in politics, especially the media. We use expressions that we just assume everyone understands. Senate estimates refers to meetings of Senate committees based around various portfolios, so the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Committee, for example, or the Education and Employment Committee. And fronting the committee is the relevant minister, if the minister's in the Senate, or their representative, if the minister sits in the House. Along with, of course, senior officials from the given department. You'll see them sitting in a line usually next to the minister. Now, they're there to answer any questions from senators about the budget related to this or that particular department. The budget, in this case, is referred to the estimates of expenditure, what the particular department plans to spend over the next few years, hence the term estimates. Asking questions, and you see them sitting across from the ministers and these officials in a bit of a horseshoe configuration, are the members of that committee, and they are made up of Coalition, Labor and other crossbench senators. For the opposition, the 4 weeks of estimates, 1 week now, 2 in and around the time of the budget, and a final week in late October, that's the opposition's best opportunity to scrutinise the government. For the government, well, I've been there, the best a minister can hope is that they get out of estimates unscathed. Now, yesterday and late into last night, what caught my eye were the hearings into the communications portfolio and specifically discussions related to the ABC. The ABC is, of course, the only media organisation in the country that doesn't have to scrabble for advertising and fight for ratings. It gets over $1 billion from taxpayers each and every year, money that ordinary Australians work hard to pay, even if they never watch the ABC, listen to the ABC or read any of its content online. As everyone who's thought about it knows, it's never been tougher to be a private sector media operator. For years, newspapers gave away their content for free online, and now the online operators like Apple and Google freely pirate their intellectual property and cannibalise the advertising revenue that's their lifeblood. The only player that's largely insulated from all of this, of course, is the ABC. 4,500 staff who never seem to be subjected to any performance test, and the organisation's $1 billion plus budget that's taxpayer secure, regardless of how many people watch or listen to what it does. Yet, as we saw yesterday, that never stops the ABC asking for more, even though, according to its own annual report, the ABC has less than a quarter of Australia's total radio audience and well under a fifth of its total TV viewers. Despite dropping 400,000 metropolitan TV viewers and 200,000 regional TV viewers in the past year, while also, to be fair, picking up 100,000 more metropolitan radio listeners, the latest funding demand by the ABC Managing Director at Estimates yesterday called not only for an end to efficiency dividends and the restoration of indexing, which simply means that their money would keep going up automatically every year, regardless of how well they spent it. The ABC boss also pushed for an extra $5 million every year to cope with so-called new normal reporting, he says, of extra bushfire coverage. He has got to be kidding. In my former life, I used to be a chief of staff to a communications minister and also the senior advisor in charge of broadcasting. Covering bushfires is covering news, and covering news is simply the core business of every media organisation in this country. Commercial TV does it, commercial radio does it, this station Sky News does it, far better in my view than the ABC, and certainly with a bit more balance when it comes to its commentators. But we don't demand a premium from advertisers or a handout from taxpayers to do it. Then, of course, there's the sustained green left bias of the ABC's news coverage. Hardly surprising, given the only readily available figures from 2013 show that nearly 80% of ABC journalists voted Green or Labor. Now, pretty obviously, I'm not against broadcasters having a point of view. I just wish there was a bit more balance in a national broadcaster that's funded by us all. But now, after many years of grumbling about the ABC, it seems that the Morrison government has come up with an idea worth pursuing. This week, the Federal Communications Minister, Paul Fletcher, demanded that the ABC come up with a property strategy as part of its long-term plan. The idea is that the ABC sells its inner-city Ultimo complex in Sydney, valued at well over $300 million, and its South Bank studios in Melbourne as well, to relocate, says the Minister, to more affordable, more modern premises in outer metropolitan or regional Australia. For an ABC that is always complaining it doesn't have enough cash, transferring resources from unproductive inner-city buildings to better broadcasting facilities, as well as boosting employment in outer metropolitan and regional Australia, well, that's a no-brainer. They'd also have the beneficial upside, wouldn't they, of losing any ABC staff who couldn't possibly bear life in Penrith or on the Central Coast or, God forbid, Geelong. Let's face it, there'd be a more down-to-earth tendency, I reckon, in the ABC head office if staff were clustered outside Wokeville. And while they're at it, how about the coalition also make the ABC a subscription channel, like this one, like where the BBC's headed in the UK? If you don't like it, you don't pay for it. If you do like it, you want it, you pay for it each month. Is the Morrison government brave enough, do you think? Well, we'll see. If nothing else, making the ABC fund itself from its own audience share might make it a bit more relevant. I can certainly think of a lot better ways to spend $1 billion.